I opened my banking app last Friday morning, staring at a balance of exactly $12.43. And the worst part? It was payday. Or, well, it had been payday just 24 hours earlier. But within that single day, my paycheck had vanished into rent, the credit card minimum, the electric bill, and a grocery run. I felt that familiar, heavy pit in my stomach. The specific kind of guilt that comes from working 40 hours a week and having absolutely nothing to show for it in my own corner. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here is exactly what happened. For the longest time, I operated on what I call the leftover strategy. The logic seemed sound in my head. I would get paid, I would be a responsible adult and pay every single bill immediately. I would buy the necessities and then, at the very end of the month, I would take whatever money was sitting there and put it into savings. But in reality, it felt like I was handing slices of a pie to everyone else first. To my landlord, to Netflix, to Visa. I was smiling, thinking I was being responsible. But by the time I got to the end of the line and looked down at my hands, there isn't even a crumb left. I just turned my pockets inside out. That was my reality for 3 years straight. I treated my own savings account like it was the lowest priority on my list. I was effectively telling myself I matter less than the coffee shop down the street. I was paying everyone else first and betting my financial future on the hope that I would magically have surplus money left over at the end of the month. But let's be real, life doesn't work like that. Something always comes up. A tire blows out, a friend has a birthday dinner, or I just have a stressful Tuesday and order takeout. The leftover strategy had me trapped in a cycle of earning money just to pass it along to someone else. I wasn't building wealth, I was just a conduit for cash flow. I realized that if I waited until the end of the month to save, I was never going to save a single dime. I had to flip the script, but I was terrified because I didn't think I had enough money to pay myself anything. So I did what anyone does when they're panicked about money at 2 a.m. I went down a YouTube rabbit hole. I watched
20%.
video after video of finance gurus telling me I needed to save 20% of my income.
20%.
Pay yourself first, they all said. Just take 20% right off the top. I honestly laughed out loud in my empty apartment. I looked at my spreadsheet, then at my bank balance. 20%? If I took 20% of my paycheck away, I wouldn't make rent. I'd be eating ice cubes for dinner. The advice felt like it was for someone living a completely different life than mine. It was discouraging, honestly. I felt like paying yourself first was a luxury for rich people, not a strategy for someone trying to dig out of debt. But then I remembered the core rule of this entire 1% journey. Start small. Uncomfortably small. If I couldn't save 20%, could I save 10%? No. 5%? Still felt risky, so I asked myself, what is an amount of money so incredibly small that if it vanished from my checking account, I wouldn't even notice it was gone? My answer was $5. Just $5. That's a fancy latte. That's a bag of chips and a soda at the gas station. That's nothing. I decided to run a specific experiment. I opened my banking app and went straight to the Transfers tab. I didn't just make a one-time transfer, though. I set up an automated transfer. I scheduled it for the exact same day my direct deposit hits, but early in the morning. The logic was simple. I wanted the money to leave my checking account before I even woke up to check my balance. I wanted to bypass my own brain. If I had to manually move the money, I knew I'd hesitate. I'd think, oh, maybe I need this for groceries. And I wouldn't do it. I hit confirm. The screen flashed. Recurring transfer, $5 USD. Frequency, weekly. The first Friday came around. My phone buzzed on the nightstand with a notification. Usually, bank notifications make my heart rate spike, assuming it's a bill or a fee. But this one was different. Transfer successful, $5 to high yield savings. I stared at it. I checked my checking account. My paycheck was there, minus $5. And here's the crazy part, I felt exactly the same. My life didn't collapse. I didn't miss a bill payment. The loss of that $5 had zero impact on my day-to-day survival. It was invisible. But then I swiped over to my savings account. For the first time in years, the number wasn't 0 It was $5,000. I know that sounds pathetic to some people. It's just $5. You can't retire on $5. But you have to understand the psychological shift that happened in that moment. For years, I had been the person who scrambled, the person who scraped by. Suddenly, I was a person with a growing savings balance. The next week, it happened again, another $5. Now I had $10. Then $15. Then $20. I remember distinctly about a month into this experiment, I was standing in line at the grocery store, stressing about the total in my cart. I had that tight feeling in my chest, but then a thought popped into my head. I have $20 in my savings account. It wasn't enough to buy a house, but it was enough to cover the extra groceries if I really needed it. It was a tiny, tiny buffer, a $5 shield. This was the autopilot discovery. I realized that willpower is a terrible way to save money. I have limited willpower. By the end of the day, I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I make bad choices. But automation doesn't get tired. That little automated script in my bank's computer doesn't care if I had a bad day, it just moves the money. It prioritized me before I had the chance to prioritize Starbucks or Amazon. I wasn't saving big money yet, but I had successfully built a system that worked without me. I was finally treating my future self like a bill that had to be paid. A very small $5 bill, but a bill nonetheless. The real magic of this $5 experiment wasn't the math. If you do the math, $5 a week is only $200 to $60 a year.
This is gonna cost
That's
you
not
a
wealth.
fortune. I can't believe
That's
you
barely
let
a
it get
car
this
repair, but
bad.
the math
You owe
isn't
me
the point.
$5,000.
The point is the identity shift. For years, whenever I looked in the mirror financially, I saw a spender. I saw someone who was bad with money. I saw someone who was always playing catch-up. But after 3 months of this automated transfer running in the background, I looked at my bank account and saw a consistent record of success. It wasn't a reflection of a millionaire in a fancy suit. It was just a version of me that finally decided to show up. That is what paying yourself first actually means. It's not about getting rich overnight. It's about proving to yourself that you are worthy of being the first bill you pay. It's about building the muscle memory of saving. Think about it like going to the gym. If I tried to bench press 200 pounds on my first day, the bar would crush me. That's what trying to save 20% felt like. It crushed me, so I quit. But lifting a 5-pound weight, I can do that. And because I can do it, I keep doing it. Now that the habit is locked in, now that the automation is set and I don't even feel the $5 leaving, I can slowly turn the dial up. Last week, I bumped the transfer to $6. Next month, maybe I'll try $10. But the heavy lifting is already done because the system is built. I stopped waiting for the leftovers that never came, and I started claiming my piece of the pie right at the start. My 1% lesson here is simple. Do not wait until you have enough money to start saving. You will never feel like you have enough. Start with an amount so small it feels silly. The goal isn't the amount. The goal is to break the streak of 0. My 1% mission for tomorrow is just to look at my checking account and set up one automated transfer. I don't care if it's for $1, just $1. Set it to move from checking to savings the morning after you get paid. Prove to yourself that you matter more than your bills. What is your tiny number going to be? $5? $2? Let me know your number in the comments. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.